Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hello, everybody. How's it going? Coaching Mastery. Hope you're doing well. So I'm so excited for today. I'm so honored the fact that I am here to share this time with you today and share with you what holistic coaching is all about. I'm so excited. Okay, I am live. It's perfect. Great. Yay. So who's ready to know more about holistic coaching and everything there is to know about it? And yeah, so let's just dive into it. Can't wait to share with you everything that I have to share. So to begin with, let's talk about it. What is holistic coaching? That is a broad question, right? So before we answer holistic coaching, what it is, first we need to answer what holism is, that first word, holistic. What the heck is holistic or holism? So to put it in simple words, holism means to view someone, an individual, as a unified whole rather than individual parts of themselves. So those individual parts make up the sum of a greater whole, aka making an individual. So when we look at it in the lens of coaching and being with a client, so your client is coming to you and has different parts of themselves. They have a personality, what their passions are, who they are within their soul level, their religion, their spirituality, their culture, what their job is, what they love to do, their family and their friendships, who they are within all of those categories. And in those categories, essentially make up who they are as a person. So that is what holism is in its root. And so when we look at that, then we can start to understand what holistic coaching is all about, right? So when we talk about it, holistic coaching essentially is a well-rounded approach that you utilize with your clients to assess your clients' life. And when we talk about this, we talk about the different areas of your clients' life, of an individual's life, as I mentioned before. So when we put it into that perspective, we talk about how a person is with themselves, how a person is in relationship to their relationship that they have with other people, with their loved ones, with their circle. So do they have close relationships? Are they fulfilled with those relationships that they have? Do they love the job that they do? So that is another area that we need to assess in order to figure out our clients and how fulfilled they feel in those areas and how they feel in terms of as well of their well-being and optimize those areas within themselves. And so when we look at that, we look at their relationships, their occupation, their leisurely time as well, if they have hobbies. And then when we say that, assess your clients' life, so that way you can help them create a greater transformation and change in their lives. So we talk about this inside of TCM, inside of the membership and everything. We talk about it as the wheel of life. So those different areas where your client or an individual feels fulfilled or they don't feel fulfilled in. They like those areas. They feel like they have something to go for them rather than against them. And when we are able to see that first, then we're able to then create a better plan for them. We're able to then help them better rather than try to figure out what is it that is going on with them, correct? And so looking at that is what brings up first within the concept of holistic coaching is that well-rounded approach. And forgive me if I'm a little bit nasally. I am extremely allergic to my cats. We just got them back now that we're back in Bali and everything. And I'm extremely allergic to cats for like a few days and then it just goes away. So forgive me if I sound so nasally. But yeah, so let's keep going. So holistic coaching, again, a well-rounded approach to assess your clients' life and therefore help them create a greater transformation and change in their lives. So the belief is that everything is connected. Again, all of those areas are interconnected. But when we look at it with the lens of holistic coaching, and the way that I like to approach it is the connection between the mind, the body, the soul, and the emotions. They are interrelated and they have a relationship with one another. So when the mind influences your emotions, as maybe some of you may know, or some of you may not, but your mind, what you think, your mindset influences the way that you feel sometimes. And the way that you feel is reflected within your body as well, and within your soul. So when we look at it like that, we have your mind specifically is what's causing any disruptions within those lines. Again, that connection between those areas. We also can look at it with the body. If you're not given the proper nutrition to your body, then that disrupts the way that you're thinking, because maybe you're lacking clarity, or your client is lacking clarity, or they don't feel energized enough. And then that influences that, and therefore can also influence the emotions that come with it, because maybe that client is not feeling well with their body, or they feel, crappy because, again, they have lack of clarity, or they don't feel productive enough, or because they feel lazy, and therefore that affects the way that they feel about themselves, or the way that they feel about their life. And it also relates to the body within the soul, because with the soul, with holistic coaching and through the lens of looking at it of holism, spirituality or your soul is at the center of it. Because when you are truly connected to yourself and to others, and maybe, if you believe in that, to a higher source, to a higher power, then everything else can stay a little bit more in balance, because again, you know what you need, you are clear of what you want and need, and therefore you can give that to those different areas. And so, for example, let's put it at the soul. If you are not feeling comfortable within yourself, if your client is not feeling comfortable within yourself, then that impacts the way that they look at themselves, the way that they feel within their bodies, the way that they feel within their emotions. Maybe they're depressed, or maybe they just feel like they have not much going on and lack motivation and whatnot. And the way that it affects their emotions as well, and their mind. So maybe they think that they cannot do more than what they think they can do, because they don't believe in themselves. And so that comes back to the way that they feel about themselves, and that comes back into the soul. So how connected are you? So that's kind of what we're going with when it comes to holistic coaching, that connection between your mind, the body, the soul, and your emotions. And that's the way that I like to approach it when it comes to it. Because those 4 core pillars, or those 4 elements, help you make up who you are. And at the same time, they have a lot to do with the relationship that you have and the way that you feel about your work, about your leisure time, if you have any hobbies, about your relationship with others, and a lot about how you feel about life. And so when those 4 things are in balance, there's a synergy between them, right? Then you are able to be more fulfilled in all those different areas, and you're able to get more clarity in all of those different areas, and therefore create overall well-being. So we're first getting into all of the details of what holistic coaching is. And then we get more into like the different aspects and what you can do with the different tools in order to practice holistic coaching and do that approach with your clients. So the idea of holistic coaching is that it helps people, essentially all of your clients, to go from processing. So processing what they came from you, processing what they're struggling with, right? So a client comes to you, which is the whole idea of coaching, because they need help from getting from point A to point B, right? And so holistic coaching, it helps the same way in that process, but it's the journey of it is slightly different because you're trying to create a different goal, which is overall well-being in all the different areas within their lives and within themselves. So you take them from your client comes with you with a problem, with an issue they cannot figure out for themselves. And then therefore what you do is you help them to go to processing everything that is going on right now. So that problem that they're coming to you with, to integrating that within themselves. So integrating meaning that you are helping them, again, from processing everything that is happening, but integrating within themselves so they can be acceptant of it. So they can integrate it within themselves and be gentle with that information that they just gathered. And then you go to healing. So you go from processing to integrating to healing. So healing whatever that problem is, because there's typically a root issue with the problem that they come to you with, right? Typically those problems that they come to you with tend to be a little bit superficial, and they're a little bit more deeper than what they've seen. And so when you take them from that stage of processing all that information, what they're gathering, the reflection of it, then integrating it, reflecting more upon it, accepting what it is, and healing that, right? Because you want them to heal that relationship, because it doesn't matter how much they're aware of something if they don't do anything with it. You can be aware of something, yet keep on doing and going with your life and pretend that everything is fine just because you have that awareness. But if you're not integrating it within yourself, if you're not integrating that information that you have, then you're not able then to heal it. And healing is the most important aspect of holistic coaching, is that inner healing, inner transformation, in order for them to let go of that issue, of that deep-rooted problem that they came to you with. And so from then on, you take them from healing to transforming. So with that clarity and healing that issue that they came with, they are able to then transform it and unleash that beautiful power and wisdom that they have within themselves, and therefore transcending it, transmuting it, and feel better within themselves. And then from then on, you take them to embodying that wholeness within themselves, even if it's a problem, which sometimes some people call it the shadow, right? A shadow meaning those parts of ourselves that we don't like, that we don't appreciate about ourselves, that we want to change. After healing, after transform it, then we're able to embody it. And embodying means that from the information that we gathered, from the healing that we had, from the teachings that we just had, from the journey and everything, then we are able to then be better and have overall well-being. And so that is what the work is when it comes to holistic coaching. The work is happening from the inside out. You're guiding them so that way they can transcend whatever it is that they're coming to you with. So again, let's just put it in the short terms before, since I just explained it a little bit in detail. So the idea of holistic coaching essentially is just to take your client from the problem to processing it, to integrating it, to healing it, to transform it, and then to help them embody all that information, all the beautiful things that they have within themselves. And so this type of coaching really provides that container of safety. And I know all of the types of coachings really should provide this type of safety, this type of support. But the beauty of holistic coaching is that it provides this beautiful container, this beautiful space where it's safe. There's unconditional regard, unconditional support. There's kindness and compassion and gentleness, because that's what we want to aim when we do this approach of coaching. When we do this type of coaching, is that gentleness and compassion, not only from us as coaches to our clients, but also so they can gather that from themselves, because there's nothing more beautiful than feeling unconditional regard and love for yourself. There's nothing more beautiful than being gentle with yourself when times get rough, when when things are not going well, or when you don't like this part about yourself. And this brings me to the point of kind of like my own journey when it comes to it, because through doing holistic coaching, through learning how to do this with my clients, I was able to transmute this for myself. If you don't know my story, or if you don't know me, if you do, you know that about 2 months ago, I was pregnant and I lost my baby. And it was devastating. It still is. But because of all the tools that I had for myself and everything that I have been able to learn, I was able to be gentle with myself and accept what had happened in a way that made me feel comfortable. Not accept it in the terms of like, oh, I'm accepting that this happened because it was horrible and devastating for me, but because I was able to take myself into that journey of processing everything that was happening, the sorrow, the pain, the heartbreak, and the information that I had gathered from the fact that I was losing my baby girl. And so I was able to process that and then integrate it within myself in terms of, what am I learning from this, or how can I honor her? And that was my way of integrating the information that I was going through, all of my sorrow, all of my deep sadness. I was able to go from that. And then I was able to then heal it in a better way. And when it comes to this, it's not like I healed it and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm fine and I'm 100%. There's still a lot of pain that comes from that part of my story, from my journey. But I was able to heal it in terms so that I could let go and be it more healthy for me. Rather than falling deep into a season of depression, I just allowed myself to be gentle and to honor where I was at with my sadness, with the rage, because I went through every single stage of grief in different orders. I was angry. I was deeply sad. I bargained the hell out of it, trying to make sense of why this was happening. And if I can do this, then maybe this will happen. And it took a bit of doing that work myself. It's not like I was like, oh, I went on my notes and everything, and I went on everything that I have learned, and I'm like, oh, I have to do this and this and this and that. It just happened naturally because I've done this work before. And at the end, as I said, you go from processing to integrating to healing to transforming to then embodying, right? And so I was able to embody everything that I have taught by training other people become holistic coaches. And through that embodiment of deeply understanding the teachings, but not only understanding the teachings, but applying them to myself and utilizing it to myself, then that's how I was able to go from being incredibly, horribly sad to being okay. And most of the days being great and good and powering through and, seeing that I also had to take care of myself through that process. And therefore, healing that wound, that trauma that I went through in a healthy way. And it's not because I was just like, oh, pretending that it didn't happen. It was because I allowed myself through the whole process, again, of allowing myself to grieve, of allowing myself to be sad, to rage, to not judge myself for feeling those things, to remove any shame that I had from it, and to talk about it, which helped a lot. And so that is the whole idea of holistic coaching, really, is as a holistic coach, you provide this container of safety, of support, of unconditional regard, of love, of kindness and gentleness. And you portray that and give that to your clients so they can start to feel it for themselves, so that all judgment, all shame, and all fear can be let go of. Because fear, shame, specifically, and judgment are the things that keeps us from embodying everything that we are, from showing our true self. That is what stops us from crying in public, from crying with our loved ones, from crying in general. That's what stops us. Or in my case, the shame around having a stillborn, right? The shame around it, because it's not something that is talked about. I was able to transcend that. I removed that shame, that vulnerability, that fear of what people might think if I share this, of that judgment of myself and judgment that I may have gotten from other people, which I didn't, thankfully. But I was able to do that through the process of, learning all of this, embodying what it is to be a holistic coach, and therefore teaching this to my clients. Because that is the most important thing that you're doing, is when you're teaching this and when you are helping them through this, you are giving them the tools and the resources for them to utilize in every situation possible. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to work everywhere, or it's going to work for every single little thing, or it'll just be like a magic pill that it just disappears and makes all your problems go away. It's a process that you have to let them go through, that you have to guide them with. And then you help them become compassionate with themselves, become more kind with themselves, and become more gentle with themselves. But that is the whole idea of being a holistic coach, that embodiment of, giving that to someone else. So that way they start to give it to themselves. And that is the most important thing, because when it comes to coaching, you're helping them and you take them from point A to point B and help them through that process. But in the long run, what you want to give them is the autonomy and the resources for them to basically let go of your hand, and for them to continue to live a very good life and reach out to their dreams and have those resources for when they don't have you, or for when they don't have you if you finish the sessions with them, or for when they don't have you at that given moment because you have a session with them. And you want to build that autonomy within themselves. You want them to create that for themselves. And you do that through holistic coaching, or at least that's how I love to teach it. And that's how I love to do my holistic coaching, is really giving your clients all the resources and all of these tools in order for them to find them within themselves. But again, if they don't have that gentleness and that compassion within themselves, then it's very hard for them to get it. It's very hard for them to transmute, to transcend, to create that really everlasting transformation that you're looking for. Because if they continue to feel like crap all the time, or because you help them and there was a breakthrough and it's great, but if they didn't go deep enough, or if they didn't heal it or integrate it or transformed it and try to embody a better version of themselves, then yeah, that side is done and over with, but they will continue to carry that shame with them if that shame wasn't healed, if that fear or judgment wasn't healed and wasn't processed enough in order for them to move on and let it go. So that is what this type of coaching, holistic coaching, really provides. It ultimately, what you want to create is optimal living within ourselves by developing those skills, by creating resilience for your clients. So you want them to create that resilience for themselves. Me going through that journey, I realized how resilient and powerful I was. I have never felt stronger before in my life than I have in the last couple of months. And that is because of everything that I have learned. That is because I have undertaken that process within myself. I have created a synergy between my mind, my body, my souls, and my emotions. I am in touch with them. I practice from the point of gentleness, of kindness within myself, of doing my best to remove that shame around anything that may be going on. And therefore, I have become more resilient because of it. I became more resilient of the process that I unconsciously did for myself of expressing my emotions, of going through that process, again, of going from processing to integrating to healing it. That was the most important part. And the way that I was able to heal it was through expressing my emotions, through sharing it with the world, to talking about it with everybody, to cry whenever I needed to rage whenever I needed to, and therefore transforming it into peace. Because that's ultimately what I did. I was able to transform it into peace, and therefore embodying that peace within myself. And that peace brought me comfort, and that's what allowed me to be able to be okay, and therefore helped me become more resilient. Truth be told, that was the most horrible thing. That was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. I have never gone through anything really that hard in my life, except for maybe dealing with anxiety when I was in college. I had some depression back in college, and I used holistic approaches for that. But nothing like this big. And because of everything that I was learning, I have been practicing for myself, and I have been giving to my clients, and therefore giving to myself, I was able to, again, move through all of those processes and be at peace with it and be gentle with myself, give myself that compassion, and then therefore be okay at the end of it all. And that's what you want to give to your clients. You want to give them that space through gentleness. And I know that I'm repeating myself a lot, but it is so important when you do holistic coaching, because I think that is missed in a lot of the practices or the teachings. It's great, the combination of all the questions and everything, but if you're not helping your clients build that resilience for themselves, that autonomy, and if you're not helping them build kindness and gentleness and compassion within themselves, then it will be harder for them to move on from other things that come on later in life, right? So basically, holistic coaching, as I was talking about, it's based on the fact that, or in the concept of health and overall life and life satisfaction. So basically, it should be defined as the presence of health, the presence of a fulfillment, the presence of goodness, rather than the absence of an illness. Hopefully that makes sense. So when we talk about it in terms of holistic coaching, we're not going with the approach of, oh, you don't have depression, so you're good. We're talking about is like, how do you feel, right? Overall with your life. So we're not talking and targeting about the absence of an illness, right? It's just like, oh, you don't have that illness, so then you're good. We're talking about your overall wellness, your overall health. So that presence of it rather than the lack of. So we're trying to touch point on that. And again, based on everything that I've talked about, if you notice, even though we're talking about the four core pillars of the connection between the mind, the body, the soul, and your emotions, there's a common denominator between those four. And those four is the self, right? If there's not a self, you, a client, and there's no mind, there's no body, there's no soul, and there's no emotions, right? And so the self within this dynamic is very important. And it allows for you to be able to understand your client a lot deeper. Because again, when it comes to holistic coaching, we're talking about a unified whole. So all those parts that make up an individual, the sum of those parts, even though they can be categorized and they can be defined as individually, and we can target those individually, ultimately, what we want to target and what we want to heal or what we want to help our clients with is them, right? So we want them to feel more powerful. We want them to tap into their inner wisdom. We want them to feel good about their lives, to feel good about themselves, to create the life of their dreams. We're trying to help them do that within themselves. But again, it's all starts with the self, right? And so the foundation in here, when you really think about it, is the soul. That common denominator, it's that self, me, your client, your next person, you, whoever it is, that individual, that person, the self is at its focus. But the foundation of it all, when it comes to holistic coaching, is spirituality, your soul, right? Because your soul is, if you believe in that, And we'll touch a little bit more upon this of how maybe you bring this to a client, right? Because not everybody is going to benefit from holistic coaching. And that is important to know. And not because it's not beneficial to everybody, it's because it depends on the beliefs of that person. And that is important to know firsthand. Again, it all comes back to that holism perspective of a unified whole. That person has a set of beliefs, comes from a culture or traditions, has different aspects of themselves that we need to keep in mind when we have a relationship with them. We need to keep in mind on how to approach things to them or with them if they do not believe that there are angels out there, for example. Like if they don't believe in that, then maybe we don't bring that up. But maybe how can we relate to them so that way we can use something that they know? And that is the beauty of coaching. And this is what I've been learning within my master's in mental health counseling, is the fact that you need to be aware of of that person, the clients that you have in front of you, and basically understand who they are as a person. And if you don't understand, that's fine, but at least get to know them. And that's what I like to do within their first sessions. I want to get to know what they believe in, who they are when people are not watching, who they are with people, what are their beliefs, what culture do they come from, where are they from? That is important to know, because then you're able to personalize it better for your client. And that is the whole point of holistic coaching, is even though you're learning an array of tools of spirituality like yoga or mindfulness or meditation, for example, it may not be beneficial for them if you approach it, for example, in terms of angels. Maybe they don't believe in angels, and you can't say, oh, imagine that you have angels guarding you and helping you, give you that answer. It doesn't help because they don't believe in it. So what do they believe in that you can utilize then for themselves, for them, right? And so the foundation, again, as what we're talking about spirituality, of holistic coaching, is spirituality that is at the center of it, because that's the soul. And spirituality is not to be confused with religion. It has nothing to do with it. There is a connection. It can be correlated, but correlation doesn't mean causation, meaning that just because someone's spiritual doesn't mean that they're religious, or just because someone is religious doesn't mean they're spiritual. They can have both, or they can just have one. And so when we talk about spirituality, we talk about more the soul level, that deep connection with themselves, and that deep connection with the unified whole, which is everybody else, that connection with everybody else. That can just be just in itself spirituality. And when we take it to a deeper level as well, is that connection that you have with a higher power, thinking that there is someone somewhere, something out there higher than yourself. And for some people, that may look like that higher power is that humanity, right? And that is completely fine. So it's taking it back to understanding who you're dealing with and how to approach it from then on. And so the center of it is spirituality, or the soul. And then you have the physical component, the intellectual component, the mind. You have the emotional side, the social side, the environmental side. So where do they live? Who do they interact with? What are the communities nearby them? And are they involved in that community, for example? Their occupation, so what they do for living day to day, and the finances. That in this day and age, the finances are something that is very important and keep people from feeling very fulfilled, satisfied with life, to hate my life. I can't do this because I don't have any money, type of thing. And so being able to evaluate all those areas are very important when you approach your sessions holistically. Again, you're looking at the different areas that make up your client, that your client has a relationship with, and therefore you're able to personalize it. So as a coach, basically, holistic coaching, this gives you the opportunity to have a more personalized approach to your clients. The way that I do it, again, is based on the 4 core pillars of mind, body, soul, and emotions. And that is with the different approaches that I'm going to tell you about next, right? So as a coach, holistic coaching gives you the ability to, again, be personalized and to tap into your intuition and your own inner wisdom to help your clients better and to create that everlasting, deep transformation. And the way that you do this, and what I mean by personalized, is there's a formula for things, and that is completely fine. That may work for some people, but it may not work for them. For example, in terms of some of the modalities that I'm going to share with you, there is meditation. For some people, meditating and sitting in a room for 10 minutes is the most daunting thing, or they just can't do it. I mean, the definition of can't, NLP stuff or can't or won't and whatnot. We can have a debate about that. But the point is, we shouldn't force someone to do something that they maybe they don't want to do, or they don't feel comfortable doing. So what are the other things that we can look for them that will be best suited for them? Maybe they're runners, for example, and they don't like to sit still. But when they're running, they feel like their mind is clear. And so that can be a form of meditation, right, for them. Maybe they've run before in the past and they haven't done it in a while for years. And that's why they're feeling so depleted and whatnot. So instead of recommending a meditation that maybe they have tried before and they're just like, I just can't sit for 10 minutes at a time. I just think it's so tedious. I've tried 5 minutes. I tried it, but I can't stick with it. Okay, what else have you tried that it has worked before? Where have you felt when it comes to meditation, right? In this area, in this example is, when have you felt like your mind is still, like you've forgotten everything, like you're super present in this moment and that nothing bothers you? Running. I used to run a lot. That is something that then you can say, okay, meditation can also be moving meditation. So maybe you can start integrating that back into your life. And that is something that allows you to, again, create a more personalized approach, a more personalized coaching session, because you are getting to know your client deeper. They're telling you, and you're utilizing that information that they're providing you with, and therefore allowing you to create that personalization and create that deep transformation that they want to create and that you want to help them create, right? And when it comes to, as well as creating that personalized approach to them, when you are feeling like you have all the tools for you, that you have tried those things that you're telling your client as well, when you have that knowledge, then you're able to be more intuitive about it. And what I mean by this, being more intuitive, and when you learn and are a holistic coach, is that you have this energy, this balance between your mind, your body, your soul, and your emotions, meaning you know what you need. You are in tune with yourself. And that's what we want to aim as well for our clients. We want them to be in tune with themselves. And so when you are in tune with yourself, you're also able to just do something that is maybe you've never done before, but you have this feeling that it's going to work based on my experiences, based on what I've learned, based on what I've seen before, what I have experienced firsthand for myself, or whatever it is. That doing holistic coaching will allow you to do that, because again, you're not fitting yourself into a box of doing things a certain way. You're getting to know your client, or maybe you know them well, and therefore you have this feeling that you need to do this approach with them, that you need to do this with them. Therefore, that is the best thing that you can do. And again, you're tapping into that intuition. So that is one of the benefits as well that I think when you are a holistic coach, is really tapping into your own inner wisdom and intuition, and therefore providing that for your clients. Because again, you're helping them do the same thing. So when you embody that, when you're doing that for yourself, then you're able to give that to your clients too. So let's talk about the core pillars of mind, body, soul, and emotions, which I keep repeating, but that is what we want to mainly target when it comes to holistic coaching. Yeah, there are all these different areas that we're targeting, but mind, body, soul, and emotions, they are at the self. The self is the most important thing to help, to change, to transform, to heal, in order for everything else to be better as well. Because if we don't feel comfortable with ourselves, if we don't feel good about ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, then it's very hard to make that fulfillment happen in all those different areas of your life. It's very hard to feel fulfilled at your job or be grateful for it if you don't feel comfortable with yourself or if you're not grateful about yourself. It's very hard to keep up with your friends or with your family or with your loved ones if you don't feel comfortable with yourself, if you're maybe lacking that connection with yourself because maybe then you can't connect with other people. And so that is very important to know. That's why I talk about the mind, body, soul, and emotions, because when you start with yourself, then everything else changes. Some of you may know that, right? But it's important to address, it's important to hone in, because it all starts with the self, inside out, right? And so when we work inside out by being holistic coaches, you're helping them create that inside out healing, that inner healing that comes out. And it doesn't come out only physically, right? But it comes out as well in every single area of your life, because your approach to life is so much different. Your approach to the way that they approach their lives will change dramatically, because they will have more understanding about themselves and therefore more understanding about others. They'll be more compassionate with themselves and with others. They'll be more empathic with themselves and with others. And when you are able to give that to your clients, when you are able to give that to yourself and be that, then everything else in the way that you are with the world changes drastically. So when we talk about the mind, we're talking about our behaviors, mechanisms, and patterns, our beliefs, though how you respond to the world, essentially, your intellectual part, and how that influences your behavior, your actions, your emotions, and our body experiences. All of these things, your beliefs, your experiences, the way that we communicate, the way our thought patterns, the way that we think, our thought mechanisms as well. So maybe our coping mechanisms and whatnot, how we respond to things influences the way that we behave, influences the way that we act, influences our emotions. Again, that is our first link there, how your mind influences your emotions, right? And how basically it also helps or influences your body experiences. So the way that you move, the way that you feel about yourself, the way that you are and express yourself to the world. Again, another interconnection, your emotions and your body. Your mind has a big influence on everything pretty much. I mean, really, all of them have a big influence on every single part of this. Then you have the body. And the body really refers to the way that we communicate our needs, the way that we communicate to the world through our sensory perception, right? Through our nonverbal communication, our nonverbal cues, to the way that we express ourselves. Are we loud? Do we love to hug people? Are we closed off? If you're hunching a lot, if you have your heart in your chest wide open, for example. So the influence of the mind in this case weighs heavily on the body's responses to the world, because your body really reflects your inner being. And so when your body reflects that inner being, again, we can talk about it in terms of your mind, your emotions, and your soul. If you're not feeling well, for example, if you're feeling sad, you're most likely have your head down. You're slouching maybe. That already is targeting within your body. Your muscles feel that. Your organs feel that. Every single part of your physical body feels whatever it is that you're feeling. If you're feeling rage, you feel it in your heart or in your chest, in my case. You feel it in your throat, for example, in my case, or you start crying, in my case. So that is how it manifests, right? And the body is just that sensory perception that we have, in anything that we think of, we express it unconsciously within our body. Our body responds to those signals. And we can go into the science of it, but let's not, just to keep it simple. And then we have our soul, right? And our soul refers to our core being, your own inner guidance, your own inner wisdom, connectedness. And that connectedness is within you, within the world, within other people. And then you have your emotions. And your emotions really refers to that complex state a feeling that are alongside, the physical reactions or the psychological changes that are happening within yourself. And so that influence the thought and behavior. So your emotions can also influence your thoughts and your own behaviors. Because sometimes if our emotions, maybe we're not thinking quite clearly, but for example, in the terms of fear, which is an emotion, if you see a bear, you're most likely going to get scared. You're not going to think, oh, it's a bear, I'm scared. It's just automatically your body is like freaking out. And therefore your thoughts are changing, are influencing the way that what you're thinking of to do next, and your behavior, which may be also automatically. So it's like, oh, I'm going to run right now. And maybe you're not thinking, oh, I need to run because I see a bear. You're just doing it. And so that is also very important to understand. Again, the connection between the mind, the body, the soul, and your emotions. So they're interconnected, and that is very important to know. And they make up basically all that your client is. They go alongside all of the influences of their external environment, their own beliefs, their own culture, and their own traditions. And I keep talking about this because what we believe in, some other people may do, and some other people don't. But that doesn't mean that we can't help those people that don't believe in the same things. We have to sometimes keep our own biases and our own beliefs to the door if we're truly helping someone. And of course, we can talk about it, getting your ideal client. And when you get many ideal clients, most likely they're going to be the way that you want them to be. But maybe you get your ideal client, but they have a different belief system or they have a different culture. Their culture, if it's important to them, it influences the way that they think and the way that and what they believe in and the way that they show themselves in the world, right? Maybe they believe some things that are outside of their culture that are kind of similar to you, and you share that. But understanding where they come from and understanding that is very important to the way that you approach things, as I mentioned before. So when it comes to modalities or approaches that you want to do in terms of holistic coaching, we have, for the mind, we have meditation. Again, meditation is not necessarily just sitting down, it can also be moving. It can be through the practice of mindfulness, which is another approach to utilize with your clients in a session. Mindfulness, meditation, and visualizations, helping them visualize what they really want and get that within themselves, helping them close their eyes so they can visualize their future, their dream life, and tapping into the feelings of how they feel when it comes to seeing that reality coming into fruition, right? And so that allows your client to have that transformation. And when it comes to meditation or visualizations or mindfulness, this doesn't necessarily have to be a homework. Oh, yeah, just look for meditations. You can do this with your clients just as simply as when you're starting a session with them, just kindly ask them to close their eyes and just start to breathe a little bit, clear out their thoughts, clear out their day, and just guide them into that process. And maybe a minute or two meditation when you're beginning with them. And that helps them come into the present moment and therefore leave anything that doesn't belong in the session behind, leave that day behind so they can focus on what they truly need in that moment. That is something that you could do right there and then with meditation. You don't necessarily need to, it helps. It's just like if you have a meditation that you've recorded yourself or that you know of someone that delivers meditations, there's apps out there now that you can utilize for guided meditations. But just by simply beginning your session with a client and helping them coming to that state of guiding them into a little quick 1 minute, 2 minute meditation, maybe 5 minutes, and just guiding them through that process so they can come into the present moment, that is enough, because that way they'll be more in tune with themselves and more present with you in the session. And therefore they can get the most out of it too, because they're not distracted by anything else. So that is some approaches for the mind. Then you have the emotions, right? And the emotions are the most tricky ones, I feel like, because they influence everything. Again, everything influences everything, but the emotions, I feel like the society right now, where we are right now, society doesn't really know how to regulate their emotions. And some of them Some people don't have really good emotional intelligence. This is something that we cultivate, emotional intelligence and emotional regulation. We as humans find it hard, I think, to regulate our own emotions. Sometimes we let them just go from 0 to 100 real quick, and that is completely normal. It's completely fine. So how you can teach your clients to regulate their own emotions and build that emotional intelligence. So within their emotional intelligence, one of the biggest things that you can do is just giving them a list of the different emotions that there are, right? And just by doing that, you help them assess what is it that they're feeling better. Because I think nowadays we're like, oh, I feel like having a burger, right? And it's like, that's not really a feeling. I feel hungry. It's also not really a feeling. So it's something that we feel within our body, but it's not an emotion, right? Or maybe I feel like the sky, I feel like I am shooting thunderstorms or whatever. And that's not a feeling. What are you feeling? There's rage, there's anger, there's frustration, there's, one of those. I forgot the one that I was going to mention next, but rage, anger, frustration. Those are 3 levels of emotions that are very different, that fall under the same category. So teaching your clients that is very helpful when they need to identify an emotion. And it's also helpful so they can build that emotional intelligence within themselves. So ways to target emotions. You have mindfulness. Again, we touched upon that with the mind section. You have emotional regulation, which I just mentioned. You have inner child healing, healing any wounds, any trauma that had happened in the past, or any stuck emotion that maybe there wasn't necessarily traumatic or wounding, that it was just that they maybe just stuck with them. For me, it was resentment for some kids that bullied me when I was in school. And so I had to do some inner child healing for that, and in order to let go of that resentment. Why did I have the resentment? I have no idea, but it stuck with me. It stuck within my body. It stuck within my mind, and it stuck within my soul for no reason whatsoever, except that I just didn't like when I was bullied in school. And so helping that through inner child healing also helps, understand our emotions better, let them go, and release those emotions that have been kept inside for so long. We also have shadow work, which is a complemental to inner child healing. We have EFT tapping as well, which is tapping in certain areas of your body in order to release stuck emotion, in order to release beliefs that you have within yourself, and therefore releasing that emotion, allowing it to be let go out of your body and not be stuck with you anymore. And this is a really, really beautiful way of releasing, again, emotions and just letting them move through the body and be processed and transformed in a way that it's very beautiful just by tapping certain points of your body. And then we have breath work. Through just breathing, you can release a lot of emotion and transmute that part of you, that inner part deep side of you that has stuck emotions or stuck energy within yourself. Which brings me to your body. Breath work is something as well that you can utilize for your clients so they can be more in tune with your body, assess where they need more comfort, where they have some stuck emotion, and therefore allowing them and helping them release that. We have yoga. And the way that you want to, for those yoga teachers out there that are wanting to integrate yoga with coaching, which I've found incredibly easy in a way that it was like, okay, it makes sense to me, but how am I going to make sense to other people? And it's just teaching from that point of what you learned in your yoga teacher training, that all of that philosophy of being kind with yourself, of letting go and letting things go, and then approaching that to your clients. That's the way that you do it. You don't necessarily need to be like, the yoga philosophy says that you have to do this or be this way. It's more of like, what have I learned that I have applied in my life in order so that I can give it to my clients in this session? Maybe for some, it can just be as simple as maybe your client is feeling stressed, and you can utilize yoga movements to do with your client in a session so that way they can relieve that stress and release that tension that they're feeling within your body. And alongside, you have Reiki. Reiki is energy healing, and that's something that you can help your clients in pretty much every single way, because Reiki is energy healing. It relates to the mind, the emotions, body, and the soul. Which brings me to the next pillar, which is your soul. When your soul, you can utilize yoga, you can use Reiki, you can use cacao. I use cacao in my coaching sessions because it's a beautiful heart opener. It's a beautiful way of connecting with yourself and be deep rooted in love and kindness and gentleness. And then embodiment, embodying what you truly believe in, embodying everything that you have learned in your process. So how can you teach your clients or give your clients that resource of okay, I've learned to be a better person and be nicer to my mom, for example. One thing is knowing that and being aware of it, that I need to be nicer to my mom. And another thing is actually embodying it. I want to be nicer to my mom, but therefore you're not being nicer to your mom. So, okay, we go from what's happening that you're not being, maybe you haven't let go of something, what's happening that you're not being nicer to your mom. But then after that, embodying that. If you want to be nicer to your mom, then being nicer to your mom. It's just as simple as that. And so that's kind of how I love to approach holistic coaching, what I've learned with it, and pretty much everything that I have for you. I love this type of coaching. It's really what got me into coaching in the first place. I mean, I was into life coaching. I did that first, but I became a yoga teacher. I loved yoga from a very long time ago, and I was doing my mental health counseling degree, and I was learning everything that has to do with mindfulness and wellness and all of that. And I thought that the beauty of that is that you can integrate it in every aspect of your life. And again, as I mentioned before, it all starts with the self. So when you apply all of those approaches for yourself, but in this case, you give that to your clients in a session for homework, however it is, but specifically in a session, because you're helping them create that resilience within themselves. You're helping them have that resource for themselves to take on forever. You want them to start with themselves and start with that connection between mind, body, soul, and emotions, and help them understand that there's a connection between all of those. So I think this is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this. What is a holistic coaching? You got all these little golden nuggets. If they were, whatever it was, I hope it served you. I love to always finish with take what you need and leave what you don't. Some things may work for you as a coach, some things may not, and that is okay. Take what you need, take what you like, take what you don't. You don't need to follow every step that I'm telling you. Just take what you need and what you feel called on to using. So yeah, I hope that you have a beautiful day, evening, wherever you may be. And yeah, talk to you later, guys. Bye.